bracket, round 2.
That we are. We are finally going to be returning to round 2. We did cast the first round 2 match, and then after that titanically long series between Mini Razor and Orc, we're back. And, well, we're going to be seeing another ZVZ here. And it's going to be in the top right spawn location representing Dignitas. It's going to be our Polish Zerg player, dTefel, against the winner of the last match, the king of the Swarm hosts in that series. It is going to be in the top left spawn location, our blue Zerg player representing FMEsports, Orc.
So another ZVZ here for Orc. Of course, Swarm host on Swarm host up against Mini Razor led to 2 regames, or a regame, and 2 games that were over an hour long of stalemates.
Yeah.
It killed our souls.
Swarm hosts are fun, but we didn't get to cast those. We would have been in our element if we'd had to cast those.
Pizzas would have been given away, that's for sure.
Pizzas would have been. I could go for a pizza right now. Can I win the pizza game?
I don't think we can win our own pizza game. We can just go get pizza.
That's true. We could.
If this game goes on for longer than an hour, like we're taking turns, you can go for a pizza run. I'll just solo cast for a bit.
Okay, that's a thing. Cool.
So, what can we be expecting from these two this game?
This is where usually, because I'm casting a dTefel game, usually I would be all like, well, dTefel's going to go Roach Hydra, because he always goes Roach Hydra, and he doesn't do anything else. But yesterday, we saw dTefel go Mutas. It kind of weirded me out a little bit. But dTefel went Mutas against Mini Razor, and it worked. So I'm not as confident in predicting dTefel as I normally would be. He is going for a pool first, which is also very standard dTefel. Orc, on the other hand, going for the hatchery first, trying to get a bit of an economic advantage there going on forward. And Orc is another guy who's like, he's capable of playing very, very passive, many styles very passively. We've cast some games of him playing incredibly passive Roach Hydra. He obviously just played some games of incredibly passive Swarm host. So I think we're going to see dTefel being the aggressor in this series.
And that wouldn't surprise me at all. dTefel, obviously, going with that pull first, and also being dTefel, he likes that aggressive play. Generally, even more so than the Roach Hydra timings from dTefel, it's his ability in the kind of early mid-game to put on some pressure. He'll cut a few drones to apply that, but then uses that control to drone really super heavily. And generally speaking, it works pretty nicely for him. So, gonna be keeping an eye on exactly what he does, but for the moment, both players happy to drone.
And that's pretty much what we're seeing here from both of them. And we're just going to have to wait and see. The first big telltale sign of what's going to be happening for dTefel is whether or not he's going to pull guys off of gas here. But one thing that we should note is that we actually have a gasless play out of Orc. So he's going to be very defensive here, and which is just very much what Orc's element is. And he's going to be focusing very much on the defensive for now.
So, if they are both being defensive, this is clearly going to be going on for just a little while longer. But I don't think that's a bad thing. They're both sitting currently on no Zerglings. I don't think a single Zergling's been produced this game.
No. It's kind of interesting, actually, because generally dTefel is the kind of guy who does like to make a couple of Zerglings poke up. If he doesn't even do any aggression, just to scout and make sure he knows what's going on. Orc, though, has gotten away with the gasless play. And what I mean by that is that if you identify that you're playing against gasless, oh, actually, wow, dTefel is just going to go for a very fast gold anyway. I was going to say that this is what he could have done if he'd identified gasless, because there's nothing Orc can do to punish this. He doesn't have Ling speed. He doesn't have the ability to just pump Zerglings. He doesn't have a Roach Warren. He doesn't have any way to punish this. So dTefel's basically going for a very early gold without any chance of repercussions.
I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest, getting this gold down, because, as you said, Orc can't really do anything to it. He's going to be rushing up to Roaches as the Roach Warren comes down, something that is getting much more into the meta game for the moment. Started off in Korea, if I'm not mistaken, that a lot of ZVZs just going for that heavy Roach composition after the eons of Muta on Muta.
Yeah, and this map is definitely a map where I would expect to see Roach versus Roach here. Muta versus Muta, not as common on Habitation Stations, just not as conducive to Muta play. Orc gonna have to be defending a couple of speedlings here. You're not gonna have any trouble with that at all. There's Queens up there. He sees the Roach Warren, does dTefel. And Tefel's own Roach Warren's also on the way. So Orc here should have a little bit of an advantage here in the upgrades, and actually already 8 Roaches straight off the bat. So that's a heavy commitment to Roaches here.
Can he do any damage with it though? Because let's look at actually what Tefel's got. He's getting his Roach Run down, he's getting the Evo Chamber down. And Roaches without speed are fairly slow. Tefel's going to have a decent warning with the speedlings on the map. And he's got that third hatchery for extra production. I think he's going to be able to get out an adequate defense to this.
Yeah, we're going to have to see, because the rush distance does mean that the Roaches won't take as long as they would on other maps to close the distance to that gold base. But, oh, this is cute. This is cute. This is a push with a couple of queens that, there was a Korean player who was doing this a while ago. So basically, the queens are meant to add just that little extra punch at the transfuses that'll allow him to just push through his opponent. And I think Tefel should sack the gold here, but with units already on the high ground, he's not going to be able to do that effectively. His own Roach is going to try to close the distance here. Tefel already with a pretty substantial supply lead here, but a lot of drones are being forced to be pulled here. And the Roaches on the low ground are going to try to get the better end of that, but at the high ground, Orc looks like he's doing a pretty decent job. The drones, though, still continuing to actually do quite a lot. The transfuses are going to come down. 4 transfuses are here. 1 left here, but Tefel still with a supply lead. He defends the high ground, forcing the Roaches to come back down to the low ground here from Orc. Orc is not looking like he's going to break this. More Roaches coming in to reinforce here for Tefel, and this is looking very, very solid here for Tefel so far. A couple of Lings coming on in to try to break it, but more and more reinforcements are spawning, and it looks like this should be a hold.
It will be a hold, and it puts Tefel in a good spot, because he's still up in workers despite pulling drones. He only lost 4 of them. Add in that gold base, and he is in a very fine spot. Doing nothing but pumping Roaches now. A counterattack, quite likely, especially with so many Roaches coming through. Unfortunately, Tefel doesn't quite have this Overlord in position to see if the third has been taken by Orc yet.
Well, Orc is in a bit of a tough spot here. The thing that Orc has going for him, which is very, very nice, that his lair's done, and Tefel hasn't even started one yet. So the Roach speed here for Orc is going to be exceptional. And while it's not going to affect the actual engagement all that much, if he can take an engagement that he actually somehow wins. Ooh, this is a nice little move here with the Zerglings as well coming on in. There's nothing to defend this. A couple of Roaches going to try to come on in. They'll get surrounded. No. With the main army coming on back, this is going to be interesting. Orc's going to try to do some damage, it looks like. I like that he's only splitting off some Lings, though.
Not a big commitment, but a good little peek. Just seeing if he can take anything down, and does get a couple of drones. Always a good bonus, but Tefel not able to push through yet. And as you said, Orc halfway through his Roach speed upgrade, whereas Tefel hasn't yet finished his lair.
A very late lair coming in from Tefel, but he does have a solid 30 supply lead that he's banking, so Tefel's still definitely in the lead here.
So where do you go now as Orc? He's down in drones by what is 5, and while 5 drones isn't too much, you got to remember Tefel has the gold base, so income wise this gives Tefel around 200-300 more minerals per minute, but also his gas income is a lot higher than Orc, as Orc has yet to take either his 4th, 5th or 6th gas, while Tefel is utilizing 5 at the moment.
Well, as Orc, the problem is you want to be making economy, but you can't, because you know that there's this giant Roach army that's about to knock on your door, and he needs to be pumping nothing but Roaches, but even then, this is going to be very, very hard to hold. There's not that much here for Orc, to be completely honest, and he's going to go in for the engagement here. A good conk of the low ground. A lot of the Roaches aren't yet here for Tefel, but Orc's got to try his hardest to take a good engagement, but there's just not many units for him.
There really isn't that many. Tefel's coming from the north as well. It's just a handful, but that helps defeat some of this concave. Both players are at 1-1. Orc has the road speed, so can escape, but Tefel just with so much stuff takes down a queen, prevents the inject at the third base, and Tefel continuing on with this better production.
And Tefel is also just continuing to just rally Roaches forward. His own Roach speed just finishes now. These Roaches will be able to reinforce so much more effectively here. A good 40 supply lead here for our Dignitas player, who's pushing up the ramp into the natural, going for the jugular vein. And this looks like he wants to take this game right here, right now. GG is called. Tefel will take game number 1 in this best